Now, does this sound familiar? You get motivated, you go on for a few days with your new good habits, and something stressful happens. And afterwards, that little voice in your head, it starts to negotiate with you. And after like a few hours, you're back to your old habits, you're back to your old life, right? Now, this was me a few months ago, and I thought that discipline was something that only a few people had, like people like David Goggins, and I was wrong. Discipline is actually a skill that any of you can master. Now, I went from hating running to running 10k steps every single day. I was also binge eating, and I was a little bit fat back a few months ago, but I went on to eating healthy and becoming fit. And when I would work, I would just work for like a few minutes, and I then would take like hour-long breaks. I went from that to working for hours even without taking any breaks. And this all happened once I applied these 4 pillars into my life. First of all, let's start with pillar number 1. Now, the reason that you keep on falling back to your old habits is because you're only changing your actions. You're changing from the outside in. And the problem with this is that when motivation runs out, your actions alone won't be able to keep you going. And you need something from the inner side. So you need to change from inside out, not from outside in, not from only just actions. And what do I mean by changing from inside out? What I mean by changing from inside out is that you need to change your identity. Now, for example, let's say that you want to develop this new reading habit. Instead of saying to yourself that I want to read like 10 pages a day, think of yourself as a reader. Identify yourself as a reader. You're not going to tell a reader that you have to go ahead and read 10 pages every single day, right? The reader is going to do it. So think of yourself as a reader, okay? Identify yourself as a reader. Now, let's take another example. Let's take that binge eating example. You say to yourself that you're trying to stop binge eating. So when you say that, you're still that person, right? You still think that you're that person that is binge eating. So instead of thinking that, you need to think of yourself as a healthy eater, not a person that is trying to stop binge eating. Think yourself as a healthy eater. So now once you're a healthy eater, you wouldn't be binge eating junk food, right? So remember, you need to become that person from within and do something every single day to reconfirm that new identity. And once you keep on doing this consistently, you will become that person. Now, one of the things that I did was that every single day that I would finish running and every single day that I would eat healthy, I would put a cross on the calendar. And once the days passed by, I could see that I had a lot of proof that I was this person, right? So you need to collect that proof. And once you have a lot of this proof, like for example, let's say on the calendar you have so many days crossed out, you have the proof, right? And you feel like not giving up, you feel like not cheating. For me, I didn't feel like going back to my old self. So that's what you need to create. You need to create this new identity. And another mistake that I kept on doing back then was that I thought self-discipline was this very restrictive thing where I'm not going to be enjoying my life. Don't think of self-discipline as that. Think of self-discipline as self-love. Now, I think you guys know those times where we are at the moment of giving up. We are about to give up and go back to our old habits. Now, this second pillar helped me to stop that. And that is by learning how to use your emotions to help you rather than letting them work against you. Now, to do this, you need to create a sense of responsibility and anger within yourself. And to do that, you have to create an anti-vision. And anti-vision means the life that you don't want to have. Now, to do this, you need to visualize. Okay, first of all, visualize what your life would look like in 1 year if you keep on doing these same habits every single day. If you keep on relapsing every single time, what would your life look like? Now, visualize yourself in 2 years, then 5 years, and then in 10 years. What would your life look like? Visualize yourself being broke and regretting that you didn't change your life. Now, remind yourself that every single time that you feel like giving up, when you're at that moment of giving up, take a moment and question yourself, should I be doing this? If I do this, wouldn't I be going in that path towards that bad life? Every single time that you feel like giving up, remind yourself of that and create that mental image in your head. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of people do that lead them to falling back to their old habits is that they don't start with the proper why. If you don't have a reason to doing this, you will just go back to your old habits, right? So you need to create a proper why. But the other problem is that even though you have a proper why, if you don't write it down, you'll probably forget about it. So make sure that you write down these things. Write down your dream life. Write down why you're doing this. Write down the benefits of doing this. Write down what would happen if you don't do this. Write down your responsibilities. Now remember this, when motivation runs out, the best friends that will help you to keep on going is your why and also your anti-vision. If you're feeling lazy and finding it very hard to do a very important task, here are some of the best ways that can help you to stop procrastinating and finally get your important tasks done. Now, the problem with most people is that they feel like they need to focus only on intensity and perfection. They feel like they need to put a lot of intense work in and they need to make it very perfect. Now, the problem with this way is that when the motivation runs out and when the thing becomes very stressful, they give up. So instead, if you want to win, don't wait for motivation. Start now, but start small. Build that initial momentum. Don't just focus on intensity and perfection. Focus more on progress and consistency. So remember to start small and then slowly increase the levels. Okay, a person that is new to the gym wouldn't go ahead to the gym and lift the heaviest weight, right? He would start with the smaller ones first and then he would slowly, progressively increase, right? For example, when I first started running, I didn't run 10k steps. I first of all started with 2k steps. Then I went on to 5k. Then I went on to 8k. Then I went on to 10k. So you need to slowly increase this. And while you're doing this specific process, you also need to learn how to enjoy the process. And it becomes a lot easier to do the thing when you enjoy the process. And some of the ways that I used to enjoy running was that first of all, I listened to music. Another thing that I did was I listened to meaningful podcasts. So when you're listening to a meaningful podcast while running, you're basically killing like two birds with one stone, right? Now, a mistake that many people do is that if they miss one day, they would stop the whole process. So instead of doing that, if you just miss one day, remember to do it on the next day. Remember to start it on the next day, okay? Another thing is that, for example, let's say that you told yourself that you were not gonna eat junk food, but you couldn't resist and you ate like a small piece of candy. Sometimes what people do is that they would think that they wasted the whole day and they would go on back to eating junk food for the whole day and they would say, you know what, I'm gonna start from like Monday onwards or something like that. So instead of doing that, just remind yourself that humans aren't perfect, okay? We make mistakes. So instead of going the whole day eating junk food, stop doing that and go on with your diet, okay? Stop doing that and go on with your diet. Remember to keep on progressing with consistency without giving up. Now, if you want to take a few steps further and learn how to stand out and become a successful person, make sure to go and check out this video where I explain you the 5 secrets to becoming an above average person.